Welcome, everybody, to episode 222 of WordPress Weekly for Wednesday, January 20th, 2016. I'm your host, Jeff Chandler, joined by Marcus Couch. Marcus, what's up, man?
Three deuces, 222. Very nice.
It's triple two. 222. So I should have played pick three today. Maybe it would have came up 222. I don't know.
Maybe. Where were your Powerball skills? We could have used that.
Boy, that would have came in handy. So today we don't have any special guests. It's just going to be Marcus and I sitting back talking about the recent headlines during the week. And to start things off, iThemes made a big announcement the other day. First of all, iThemes is a WordPress company that's been around for a while. In fact, it's been around this month. They're celebrating 8 years of being in business. So that's about as long as I've been involved in the WordPress community. Let's see, 8 years, and yeah, 2008, right? Yeah, it should be about 2008. So they're one of the first sort of big time commercial companies that started in the WordPress ecosystem. And the interesting thing about that is there's actually, I think we've talked about this before when we had Corey on, but there's a couple of different companies that started at that time that they're actually doing rather well, even after 8 or 9 years or so of being in business. But they are announcing a new service called Stash Live, which will be part of Backup Buddy 7.0. So Stash Live is a service that's similar to VaultPress, where you'll be able to perform real-time backups and snapshots. So both the database and your files, which includes themes and plugins, will be streamed to the service over an encrypted connection. So you can either download the zip file, which is your backup file. You can keep that locally, or you can use Stash Live as a remote offsite backup storage location. Now, I think everyone who is already a subscriber, has an active subscription to Backup Buddy, will receive access to Stash Live and receive 1 gig of data. But if you need to keep more backups or higher storage backups, bigger backups, you'll need to purchase extra data on their plan. So overall, it seems like a really, really big, important update, and I think something a lot of people will take advantage of. And it's nice to have yet another sort of competitive security solution in the market that's similar to VaultPress. And this isn't the first product that iThemes has that's similar to what Automatic has in their arsenal. But kudos to them. And Backup Buddy 7.0 right now is in the beta testing process. So there's no estimated time of release, but they're working on it. Should be soon. But congrats to Corey Miller and iThemes for being in business for 8 years. That's no easy feat. And I'm glad to have them around. They're actually a great resource and valuable asset to the WordPress community.
Yes, and it's interesting, too, to see how many kinds of iterations of their business model they've gone through over those 8 years. They obviously originally were just a themes company, and then they ventured into plugins, and now they're predominantly plugins, and yet are still called iThemes, which is cool. So I like the Stash service. And I'll tell you why, is because it's a third-party location that's not host dependent anymore. So you can still switch around your hosts and all that, and you still got a great backup system. That's one thing about like services like WP Engine or managed hosting or stuff like that. They maintain the backups on their side. So if you want to switch, you obviously can't take your backups with you as a portable entity. And this is one great way to do it.
Yeah, so be sure to check out the show notes, because I have a link to a post. We wrote about this on wptavern.com, and they've actually done a 43-minute walkthrough of Backup Buddy 7.0, which includes a very thorough look at Backup Buddy Stash Live. So if you want to check it out and see how it works, there's a great high-definition video that we published on the site.
Awesome.
Yeah. So here's a service. Now, Marcus, I think you've mentioned this before in your experience purchasing items from ThemeForest, but ever run into a situation where you purchased an item and then you come around, let's say a few months later, because you need to re-download that item, and the item has been removed or disappeared, and you can no longer access it. Isn't that a pain in the butt?
Yes.
So I bet you wish this service existed during around that time. But there's a new service called Wpweekly, created by Freddie Lunkenven, who is the owner of a Norway-based web development agency called Logic Web Studios. And Wpweekly is the easiest way to describe it is the Wayback Machine or Internet Archive of Envato. So what it does is it takes items and files that customers have, and when you use Envato, those items get uploaded to Envato, and it actually stores them, and it actually stores screenshots, information, authors, previous versions, and all kinds of cool stuff like that. So in case you ever could run across a file that either ThemeForest removed or Envato removed or the author removed, and you need access to that file, you could just get it from Envato. And now the cool thing about it is it's free. Ludwig Vem says he does not plan to monetize it. That kind of worries me a bit, because you wonder, well, how long is Envato going to stay around? But he says that it's cheap. It's pretty affordable right now to run the service, and storage is really cheap. So he's got that going for him. And in terms of what Envato thinks of this service, they don't officially endorse Envato, but they do encourage customers to find backup solutions, which Envato certainly meets that criteria. So it's pretty cool. And if you're wondering how it works, a user uploads their items to Envato, and then if another user, a customer, uses Envato and they have the same item, it doesn't upload two versions of that item or the same identical item. It'll automatically, whatever item is uploaded to Envato, that becomes the primary one that everybody shares and has access to. So I don't know. It's a pretty cool service. It definitely fills a void in the whole backing up of Envato type market items, things like that. But pretty cool service. It's free. It's Wpweekly.
Yeah, I'm gonna start Marcus Vado soon, and it's just where you go. You guys out there in the audience, you go buy all the stuff in Envato and just send it to me, and I'll keep it on my hard drive. And if you need it, just email me. I'll send you a copy.
Well, that was definitely brought up in the comments. I mean, the first comment on the article was, "Oh, what a creative way to collect a whole bunch of Envato items
for free."
Yeah, for free. So
hey, it's a free service. Go ahead and upload all your purchases.
So Freddie put a lot of work into this. I think it fills a void. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess he could get all the free items if he wanted to, but I mean, I don't know what's the big deal in that.
The situation with the product that I had such dispute on when we talked to when we had the guys from Envato on the show was that the theme that I had in question was like a directory theme, right? And they took it down because the guys somewhere along the line, Google Maps changed kind of their API. And so this theme stopped working in the sense of Google Maps. But I had a developer that I paid to get it to work, and it only cost me $40 to have this developer fix the thing that was broke. But instead, the guys that made the theme just took it off, said, forget it, we're not going to support it, we can't figure it out. And so I'm out, $70, and didn't really even have enough time to launch the whole site because that was only a matter of weeks before that happened. So I don't know. Maybe I should have just GPL'd that theme and made it my own and sold it again. Maybe that's my own stupid mistake, right? But that was my issue, was that if you're going to take something off, then you should be refunding money within a certain amount of time of the people that bought it. And I know that Will mentioned on the show that when we had Envato on, that I probably could have elevated that straight to a ticket, within the company and probably gotten that resolved. But it just seems like a little bit of a flaw in the system. That's all. Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, you could always back up your items locally if you want to, if you don't trust Envato, if you don't want to give them access to the system. But, it's pretty nice to have something that is collaborated together and actually stores previous versions as well. So, I mean, yeah, I get the whole trust factor with, yeah, it's a great way to just, it's like a vacuum sucking up everybody's Envato items. But then again, for the purpose, for the purpose of the site and the problem it solves, I don't know. We'll have to see over time how many people end up using it, connecting their Envato accounts to Envato, and see if the site's still around within, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, or if maybe the trust factor is its Achilles heel, and that's why it doesn't end up getting a lot of adoption.
Could be. Either way, we'll see. We'll see how they fare. This will be an interesting one to see if they're still around by the end of the year when we do our 2016 year in review.
Yeah, year in review. Yeah, we'll have to look all the way back on it. Say, yeah, remember Envato? So a large, I don't want to say competing, but a large complementary CMS, open source CMS named Drupal, celebrated its 15th birthday this week, and that's or at least last Friday, and that's a hell of a milestone. I mean, that's 15 years old, and you look at WordPress, which is 12 years old, and Joomla is 10. So all three open source GPL licensed content management systems combined equal 37 years of experience. And for an open source project to last that long and to be as large as all three of those are, that's quite an accomplishment. It should be celebrated. But one of the things I really enjoyed about Dries Buytaerts, who was the founder of Drupal, he wrote a long post about sort of looking back at Drupal in the last 15 years. I thought this was pretty awesome when he said that Chrome, Firefox, and Safari didn't exist when Drupal was created, and most people still use Netscape, Opera, or Internet Explorer. He said that new ideas for sharing and exchanging content, such as public diaries and RSS, had yet to gain widespread acceptance, and Drupal was among the first to support those. Wikipedia actually shares the same birthday as Drupal, so that's a little bit of inside baseball info there. And Facebook and Twitter also didn't exist until about 4 or 5 years later after Drupal. So Drupal goes way back, and of course they recently released version 8.0. And a lot of times people say, well, Joomla's competing with WordPress or Drupal's competing with WordPress. But if you look at it, the fact is all three are more complementary than they are competitors. And they're all furthering the open source nature and GPL, and they're all sort of comprised or composed of thousands of lines of code from people all across the world. So really, they're all really complementary. And one of my favorite interviews was back from 2011 at this event called ShippleCon. I think it was like a web marketing conference. But the co-founder of WordPress, Matt Mullenweg, and then the founder of Drupal, Dries, were both on stage at the same time, and they had a chat about open source. And it was just great to hear the perspective of Dries and where he comes from and his philosophies on things versus Matt Mullenweg's and things like that. And Marcus, one of the tidbits I took away from that interview when I talk about the success of WordPress, and I kind of chuckled to myself, but in the early days, when the project was just getting started, the mere fact that you can download WordPress as a zip file was huge. And I mean, it made it a lot easier to extract and upload and download and install instead of messing around. Do you remember tarballs?
Yeah.
TG, some weird extension, but a lot of open source projects back in the day used to be hosted on SourceForge and used to had to download tarballs. And I don't know. I very rarely ever successfully extracted a tarball, but WordPress packaged its software up in a zip file, and that actually helped garner user adoption in the early days. I thought that was a great tidbit of knowledge, and it makes complete sense. But with all that said, happy birthday to Drupal. It's rocking and rolling. It's doing great. They just released version 8. They're working on the next version after that, which is probably going to be 9. And all the best to Dries and everybody involved with the Drupal community.
Absolutely. And I don't, everybody that says Drupal and WordPress and Joomla are in competition with each other, actually not. They are all in competition with Squarespace and Wix and those other services. So there, without Drupal, there probably wouldn't be a WordPress, believe it or not. Or, if there weren't Joomla, WordPress wouldn't be where it's at in terms of the technology and the things that we have and the advancements that we've made over these last 10, 11 years. So 13 actually. So it's a point worth mentioning, obviously, in terms of the milestone of Drupal. Hopefully in the next 5 years, by the time they get to that 20-year mark, they've advanced it enough to where they can really, get a good handle on their update cycle and sort of plugins and themes and making it better. But, there are some nice sites out there that sometimes I swear are WordPress sites by the look. And then you look at the source code and it's Drupal. You're like, wow, that's something. So congrats to them. Good job.
Yeah, at some point in the future, one of my dream shows is to have Dries and Matt Mullenweg both on WordPress Weekly at the same time, so I can host a chat about open source and technology and where they see the future of open source in general on the web, or B, have an open source roundtable where I have a smart representative from Joomla and then Dries and Matt Mullenweg. I could have people from all three on the show, man. What an awesome show that would be, I think.
That would be epic. Let's get that booked.
So we've talked about GlatPress a little bit in previous episodes, mainly with when friend of the show, Triple J, is on. But GlatPress used to be its own separate software project that people use to create translations for WordPress plugins and themes. Well, instead of being separate software that was powered by BackPress, GlatPress 1.0, nicknamed Bunsen Honeydew, which is a pretty cool name, was released the other day, which means it has been moved out of its own separate software. Now GlatPress is a plugin. So it's pretty cool. The team has been working on this since June of 2015. So as version 1.0 includes WP CLI support, which is the WordPress command line interface. It is integrated with WordPress's user system. Of course, you can easily install it now because it's plugin. You can install it from the WordPress plugin directory, which also gives it the ability to be easily updated, and it includes multi-site support. Now, if you have or are managing a GlatPress install and you want to make the switch or migrate to the plugin, you're going to have to look at the plugins wiki, because there are quite a few breaking changes that you're going to have to take note of if you want to switch. There's also a guide, which of course we'll link to all these in the show notes, for converting plugins for the standalone version to use the WordPress plugin infrastructure. So all in all, I think GlatPress as a plugin means it's going to have more development. You're going to see new features added quickly, and you'll probably end up seeing a larger community of people that will jump on board and be part of the project instead of it being separate software on BackPress, which is really no longer maintained.
Yes, I welcome the advancement of GlatPress. I know that we've had a lot of buildup, especially when we're talking to Triple J on the show. It's nice to see that this is starting to take prominence as WordPress grows throughout the globe, as we start to get into other languages, other countries, other cultures. We need those translations to have full adoption across the board. I can't wait for the day that, people in China are putting out plugins all over the place so that we can get them translated, get the core functions translated and the terminology and things, and make it so that we can use some of their advancements too, and vice versa. So it's a big advancement. I'm really proud of that project.
So one of the featured articles on WP Tavern over the week is that it's a little something I wrote where I said Matt Mullenweg addresses concerns that WordPress is moving too fast, or in other words, WordPress development is moving too fast. During the WordPress State of the Word presentation, during the question and answer session, more specifically, Mika Epstein, who is a volunteer who reviews and approves plugins for the WordPress plugin directory, brought up voiced some concerns that she had heard from developers that they're finding it difficult to keep up and maintain their plugins because they don't have the resources that are that the WordPress.org team may have or some of the other people have, and they're finding it difficult to keep up with WordPress as WordPress releases a new major version every 4 months. So the question was, maybe could we see maybe we're toning down the release cycle from 3 major versions per year to maybe 2 major versions, cut it down a bit to give people more time to keep up and maintain their work. And basically, Matt Mullenweg said no. He talked about how he talked about in his response. He talks about how people don't like change, and sometimes people overreact to change, and some of this is kind of involved with this discussion. And he pretty much said that as WordPress moves more towards a interface and REST API oriented development structure, we're probably going to see WordPress iteration happen faster and not slower. And he said that the development team will continue to aim for releasing 3 major versions per year. So that's about, again, one new version every 4 months. So there's been quite a lengthy discussion on this topic, from the speed of the release cycle and what's the real issue here, to plugin themes and whether WordPress updates even break their site. So there's been quite the discussion on the site. And I don't think, for me, I just run and manage one site, and that's wptavern.com. So updates is not a problem with me. And of course, my job, I make a living keeping up with WordPress. I have no problems doing that. But let's say if I had a number of clients, I was managing all kinds of different websites that had all kinds of different plugins and some weird combinations, I could see how a WordPress release coming around every 4 months could create havoc. And as you spend time trying to fix things, maybe you have quite a few plugins that are incompatible on a number of sites, but by the time you get around to fixing all those, here comes another major version of WordPress down the pike, the release train, as they call it. So I could see where people would have that mindset. But Marcus, do you think WordPress is moving too fast, and you think they should dial it back, or how do we get people to stay on board the train instead of getting thrown off?
Well, I don't think it's going too fast. In fact, I think, as you mentioned, I think as things like the REST API come out, that cycle is only going to accelerate. So this is actually sort of an omen for plugin developers out there, that you've got to stay on top of your stuff if you want to have a successful plugin. And it also is sort of this evolutionary thing of, the strongest will survive. So if you have a plugin that you continually maintain, make sure that it works, make sure it doesn't break, in those 3 opportunities per year of something breaking with the release cycle, being put out, that to me signals that if you're administering WordPress sites on behalf of a client, that's even more of a reason for them to hire you for maintenance month after month, because of the fact that there are so many release cycles out there.
And on top of all of that, we had a great comment where somebody said plugin and theme authors or developers are not only trying to keep up with WordPress, but they're also trying to keep up with all the latest design trends and changes to CSS and the libraries and JavaScript and PHP. And, I don't envy those who are involved with front end development work and are having to learn all these different frameworks and that are being created, it seems like, every week now. Between all those technologies and trends and then having to keep up with WordPress, I could see how people would be inundated.
Yeah, especially on the premium plugin front. I think that's probably where most of the problems would lie, just with these guys that hack together these things out of code and then, maybe are working on certain functions within core that then change. So it's interesting, but no, I say keep the releases coming. I like them.
Yes, every 4 months I want to have something cool and exciting to write about, which is a release of WordPress. It's quite the event. So that's going to do it for this week's headlines. That's about all that's going on. Of course, development continues to to happen on WordPress 4.5. There's been a few meetings for the feature plugin chats to discover which feature plugins are at a point to possibly be merged into WordPress 4.5. I've seen a couple of things with the WordPress REST API as well. In fact, probably next week, I'll dive into the status of WordPress 4.5, give you a better update. But so far, it's just all heads forward, heads down, cranking away on the next awesome version of WordPress. So, Marcus, why don't you, unless you have any topics you want to bring up and discuss?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. Well, go have at it.
Okay. I was browsing YouTube the other day and just on a whim typed in WordPress and said, give me the things that have come out in the last hour. All right. And one of these was a video called 0-Day WordPress Exploit. And whoever has this theme called Module, I would get the hell off of this theme as soon as you can. This guy found within the libs/script thing, there's a PHP called dl-skin.php. So what this guy did was share a screen capture of him typing in the theme, module / content, whatever, getting down to the directory. I don't remember the exact string. And so if he found it, he was doing a Google search for this to see if somebody had this particular theme installed. So then he would go into their content, into their directory, look for this particular thing, and then had an HTML script that he would run on a browser side that would actually act as if it were making a post in WordPress, and it was able to download the wp-config.php file, which has all of your database usernames and passwords and things like that. So I watched him do this, and I froze it on the HTML code, and I typed in the code. It was just like 6 lines of code in Notepad, and I ran it locally, and I did the exact same Google search. And out of 5 of the sites that I found on Google, I was able to download the config file for 3 of them.
That sounds rather dangerous. I'm on YouTube right now trying to find that video, but I can't.
I'll share the link with you.
I can't find it, but
I'll
you
share
said
the
that
link
was recent, huh?
Yeah, this was last week. So I'm afraid to show the video, to put the link to the video out, because then people get
I see what you're saying.
I'll share it with you after the show, but oh boy, to see just our beloved WordPress being plucked apart like a chicken on a butcher's table like that was sad.
Well, because of a theme, vulnerable theme, right?
or because of a theme. And I'm not talking like these are blogs. I'm talking these are companies. One of them was a lawyer site. One of them was like a manufacturer site. Yeah. So, and then again, you could probably make a nice living trolling everybody who's got this theme and go, hey, by the way, you're hacked.
Wow. Well, so it kind of reminds you that when you see people on the forums saying my site was hacked, or I'm using this theme, or my site's been defaced, or I see all this spam showing up, and kind of makes you reconsider. Well, maybe it's a bad theme. Maybe they're running a theme that has a bad library. I mean, just think back to the Tim Thumb, Tim Thumb issue that so many themes experienced a few years back. That was terrible.
Yeah, but in this instance, I've never seen such a blatant, easy way to download somebody's wp-config file, and that's dangerous, man, because you could run the whole show, everything.
Well, I mean, so if you're, to all our listeners out there, please do not go on YouTube and search for how to hack WordPress.
No, because you'll find it, and then I'll be mad.
You'll find it. Then again, if you keep all your stuff up to date, that's, of course, you have to be installing and updating things that fixes vulnerabilities that were discovered and reported to the author, which they then fixed. So, it's that whole chain of command there. But wow.
Yeah, then they fix it. Then it's got to be pushed out as an update. Then somebody has to download that. These are premium themes that this happened to. So
I'm scared.
I am too. I'll show it to you.
You know what that
Free.
means? That means either A, Vault Press, or B, Backup Buddy Stash Live. Then I'll be okay. Then we'll be okay. So, well, thanks for sharing that information. But, geez, I hope our listeners don't go on YouTube searching for how to hack. Actually, it would be maybe our listeners should do that. They should go on there and they could see it and see how easy sometimes it is based on the vulnerability that's in a theme or a plugin. It's child's play to some of these hackers and scripters and script kiddies to manipulate and deface websites. I mean, it's not hard depending on the vulnerability.
Well, this certainly wasn't hard. It was quite easy. I was stunned to see that I could do as much as I could.
So what do we have on tap this week for our plugin picks of the week?
Well, we've got some really nice ones, Jeff. Actually, the first one out of the gate is something that I found very cool. It's called Easy Image Filters. And just like Instagram or some of the other apps that you might use on your phone that does filters, this will do the exact same thing with images that you upload into the media library. So it's all kinds of cool image effects, change the color, black and white, do all kinds of, make it look like a Polaroid or a poster or pixelized or any of that stuff. You can do it easily just by actually just applying it through this plugin. The nice thing is it saves a new filtered image and you never lose the original. So it's not like you're going to screw it up and lose it forever if you don't like the filter that's on it. Very nice. It's called Easy Image Filters. The next one is called Holiday Logos. Now, you don't necessarily have to use this for holidays, but what it does is it automatically changes your logo, the image, the background, or even videos based on particular dates that you set ahead of time. So it has a bunch of preloaded US holidays. There's no restrictions as far as how many different iterations that you can make. So what you can do is make custom holidays like sporting events, current events, different sales that you're going to have throughout the year, like Black Friday, birthdays or anniversary sales throughout the year, anything you really want to do. It is really pretty easy to show these different versions based on the date. And the cool thing is that if you have a date that doesn't fall into a holiday, it just reverts back to regular old website look. It's pretty neat. It's called Holiday Logos. And finally, this is a new plugin called After Comment Prompts. Now, this is neat because what it does is it comes up with a prompt after someone leaves a comment. So you know that they're pretty engaged with your content. That could be an opportunity that you just have this pop-up modal that says, hey, how about sharing this article on Twitter? Or how about liking our Facebook page? Or whatever you want to do as far as a call to action after they leave that comment. This plugin's for you. It's called After Comment Prompts. And those are my plugin picks of the week.
Yeah, I might install that so everybody leaving comments on the tavern after they leave a comment will say, why don't you buy me a beer for having to moderate your comment?
That's true.
So I could be well hydrated as I read your comment.
Perhaps perhaps a WooCommerce link that will guarantee that their comment will make it through moderation.
I hope for web visitors' sakes that people who already have call to actions that come out and spring up on you with opt-in email addresses don't end up using this plugin too. So not only do they read your content and get something shoved in their face, but after they stay there and leave a comment, they also get something shoved in their face. So it's like a double whammy. So, be smart about using this.
Yeah, you could actually just use it to reward them too. You could
you could do that.
Thanks. Here's the link to, my ebook or whatever you want to do. Our specials. Here's a promo code if you're using it as on a commerce site. Here's the promo code to get 10% off. Thanks for your, participation in the site.
Yeah, well, hey, now that's actually a good use case there. Instead of saying, hey, you just left a comment, now give me something, you could say, thanks for leaving a comment. I'm going to give you something.
That's right. A little reward.
Yeah, I like that. So that's going to do it for this edition of WordPress Weekly. We're going to have a guest next week. It will be somebody. I'm going to ping a couple people, and we're going to have somebody on. So who it will be, no one knows.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you to all the people that were Membarium listeners that came over and listened to last week's episode with Micah Mitchell. I got a lot of good response actually in the Membarium Facebook group. A lot of people really enjoyed the interview. So thanks to all the new people that have come to us because of Membarium, and hopefully you'll stick around.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. So you can find this episode and all previous episodes on wptavern.com along with the show notes. And you can follow me on Twitter at Jeffro. That's JEFFR0. And Marcus?
And you can follow me at my website, marcuscouch.com, on Twitter at marcuscouch. And don't forget, leave us an iTunes review. That would really help out. There's a little bit more competition after the first of the month here in terms of WordPress podcasts. I think we're at number 3, but we all know where we deserve to be. So leave us a nice review in iTunes. We'll read it on the show.
Exactly. So until next Wednesday evening, everybody enjoy the rest of your week. We'll talk to you again soon.